Mm-hmm. Very good. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, so let's get started. I was off yesterday, and I don't mean just off of here. I mean I was off, like feeling not good. I again have been having some iron issues, and let's make sure that the audio is good here. Very good. Yes. Okay. So I've been having iron issues, as I told you guys. I need an iron infusion, and let me tell you what, our medical system is a hot mess. It's like you must be dead in order to get some kind of a service or support or help or whatever. It's just quite interesting. But in that feeling of, no energy, right? The energy's low, can't get out of bed, feeling super tired, and, trying to get my energy levels up. So it was really hard. And another thing is the focus, right? Being able to focus on things becomes a challenge when your iron is low. And I suppose even if you had chronic pain, right? People living with chronic pain, people living with health conditions, it's not easy. It's not easy to continue to move on, especially towards your goals or what you're up to. And if you have a heavy workload, and how do you move through that, right? That becomes for people. So, that is how I've been feeling. And I still feel very drained. And once I get my infusion, you'll see the change in my whole body, right? You can see that my aura is a little dull. And that's what I'm talking about with Spirit and Coffee, is that we have this aura, this energy that we vibrate towards. And when our energy is low, we're not able to do the things that we need to do. And that's okay, to take a time out, to take a pause. That's what I was saying before. So some exciting news. I actually got a book. I did go to Santa Fe with my mom, and of course I ended up in a bookstore. And I was super, super excited for this book that I got by Carl Jung. And it's the Red Book. And really feeling the connection between these individuals who left a mark, in society. We still, in psychology, sort of use the models of Jung and Freud and all these, people who impacted and published certain articles and stuff with their peers that we still use today, models use today, and the way the worldview is. And so looking at the works of Carl Jung, what I'm starting to understand and realize is that there's that internal experience that happens, and I feel connected to these individuals because that's how I feel. It's an internal thing. Our power comes from in us, and I know that sounds very cliche. I know that most people would say, well, that's cliche, and it is in some ways, to say, well, it's all within. And then people are like, well, great, thank you. Or you have all the answers, they exist within you. Oh, great, thanks. Now what does that mean exactly? How do I tap to the within? And sometimes it takes solitude and time by yourself to be able to tap to the within. And that's oftentimes is not easy for individuals, right? Sometimes it's hard for people to be with themselves, with their own thoughts, by themselves. And so what do? We use distractions to sort of push us away. And why? Because our subconscious mind sometimes has what feels like the living hell. It feels like we're going to the depths of pits of hell, because there's there's demons in the closet, there's skeletons in the closet that we don't want to unveil. And it's easier to just pretend they're not there, they don't exist, than to do a deep dive. And so when they say, these individuals say that they've gone to hell, they've literally experienced hell, they're really experiencing the depths of their subconscious mind, the parts of their subconscious mind that they want to deny. And that's part of alchemy. And the dark emotions, or healing through dark emotions, sort of talks about that, gives the idea of how to overcome that. Okay. And I don't know if the audio is coming through on this. Oh, I don't think it is. Hello? Let me know if you guys can all hear me out there, or if it's just stuck in time. Looks like it's just stuck in time on Facebook. I tell you what, switching to what felt like a better platform really became more of a headache than anything else. Perhaps there's a way to do it. Can you hear me? Are you guys hearing me? I don't think you guys are hearing me. I think it's totally not coming through, but let me know. It's sort of frustrating. Especially I have the people on Podbean. Well, there's no one on here now, so I guess it doesn't matter either way. Let me see here. I'm going to try to see if I can figure this out. So frustrating. Technology, I tell you. Hello? Hello. I don't know what it's doing. So frustrating to me. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's coming through the audio. Thank you. Or you have all the answers. They exist within you. Oh, great. Thanks. Now, what does that mean exactly? Oh, okay. How do I don't know. I think the audio is coming through delayed. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'm just gonna keep going, and if you guys just see my face frozen in a funny way, that's okay too. But these people, these individuals are doing. They've done such amazing work. So part of it is the deep dive into the subconscious mind. How do you do that? You start to spend time by yourself, literally by yourself, taking walks, observing nature, doing meditation. Sometimes I go to the gym, and not sometimes, I go to the gym quite often, and that's my space to just be with me. I don't want to talk to individuals. I'm not there to socialize. I'm there to actually start to think, to contemplate, to listen to my thoughts, to be aware of what I'm hearing in my thoughts. What does that mean for me? What's the dialogue going on? Now, in reading, Carl Jung, that he thought he was schizophrenic, and I think all of us kind of get that feeling where we have this internal dialogue happening, and in the past it was like, well, you're crazy for having that internal dialogue. You're not crazy. Everybody has that internal dialogue going on. Everybody has the voices in their head. And I think later, he called them archetypes, right? That there's this sort of energy formation of the experience of the world in an archetype or personality. And that personality gets expressed through the human vessel. And that's what I was trying to say, is we're a body, and the expression of who we are comes out and manifests out through different personality styles and types. And we engage the world with that, but sometimes we feel like it's not us. And that's how I feel. Like there's this thing inside of me that's not me, that's wise, or that has the answers. And then there's a part of me that's like a child, where I just feel young and vibrant, and it's a totally different character, it feels like, right? And so there's a diagnosis for that. And they say, well, you're schizophrenic, or you're multiple personality disorder, or you're this or you're that, or you're here, and all of these things that they tell us, to me, never freaked me out. I never thought something was wrong, because, good morning, Jennifer. Never thought that anything was wrong. Why? Because I had faith. faith in God and the understanding that there's this oneness, there's this wholeness, there's this bridge back to a source that's greater than us, right? And so the source that we hear, that's greater than us, that power that drives from within, cannot be heard through the noise of other archetypes or personalities going on in the head. So an internal sort of scan of what is happening internally. What do we hear? What are you hearing? What are you listening to? What is it that your brain is telling you? Because there's some, like I said, some dialogue going on. Something in there is telling you something. It's saying something. It's having a conversation. And I can tell you that sometimes our dialogues, right, get get us distracted or distract us from actually doing what we said we were going to do and reaching our goals. And those dialogues are sometimes not necessarily supporting us in creating the outcomes that we want to. So how do we take a deep dive in awareness, presence, right? They talk about that. And that means that sometimes we have to accept the internal dialogue that's uncomfortable even when we don't want to. That internal dialogue that comes in that we're like, oh God, I don't want to hear that. Why am I thinking that? Why are those thoughts? I'm a terrible person. And that's what ends up happening. We label it that you're terrible, you're going to go to hell, you're going to blah, blah, blah. And so we pretend like we don't have these thoughts, which ends up being worse. Okay, we have an ego. We have bestial thoughts, right? We're this flesh, and this flesh has encapsulated or entrapped certain energies within it. And those energies get to be, if you don't get to understand them or become clear about what their function is or how to maneuver through them or past them, then it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue because now we're playing with like different personalities and feelings, and internally we feel, when we tap into that wholeness, that oneness, that we're really good people. So why is it that we have so much conflict with other people, or so much conflict in this and that and the other? And it's really because you haven't accepted the darkest corners of your mind, the deep dive into the subconscious mind. That the subconscious is telling you something. It's saying something. It's giving you a message. And sometimes those dark times, right, are there to support us. Those dark times are there to support us so that we can then reach back to our wholeness. It's just a re-encompassing back to wholeness, right? Bridging the gap, closing the gap, recognizing that there is no gap, but we're creating one. Okay? The book is amazing. I'm excited. The only reason that I've been a fan of Carl Jung for a long time, archetypes, and I know Carolyn Miss does a lot of work with that, but this book is a depiction of his spiritual journey, which then birthed out a slew of arts and mandalas and all this stuff, which he didn't feel was art. He felt that was a true expression of his soul. Like, these pictures had deeper meaning in the spiritual sense for him, and even for individuals, that it's told a story of the connection to the spirit, and it wasn't just art to be displayed on a wall, or a creativity piece, a piece of creativity. It was something that had deeper meaning. And for you can tap into that, like sacred geometry. Those are things that start to occur when we start to tap into the wholeness of who we are. So once we do that, once we feel that wholeness, once we see that wholeness, once we're tapped into the wholeness of who we are, we can start to express, right, that internal dialogue externally, and paint the world with our rainbow. There's a world that exists in you. There's a whole universe. There's a whole, I mean, it's bigger than the universe itself that exists within us, with the cells, with everything that's going on. And when we start to understand what's happening in this thing, right, in our vessel, we start to understand and tap into that universal principle of self, then we can start to express it out. And it's beyond creativity, it becomes godly. You start to walk in your godly path, or on your godly path. You start to set those foundations, those boundaries. You don't sell out, right? Or sell your soul. And you start to say, I am in control and power of my soul through the human vessel. And how do I do that? Through presence, through self-awareness, through being alone with yourself, through allowing yourself to go through those mental spaces and listening to the internal dialogue that supports you, right? Is it supporting you, or is it taking away? Either way, when you start to listen to that internal dialogue, you're going to get some sort of answer, some sort of feeling and sensation. And was going to read The Dark Emotions, but I was reading Carl Jung's book, so I thought I'd talk about it. But in this book, and the first sentence that I read, which I loved because his emotions live in the body, contrary to popular ideas that feelings are all in your head, emotions live in the body. They explode us into ecstasy or devour us with pain. Emotions live in the body. The body is the key here. Every single, good morning, Sir David, every single prophet, every single spiritual guide or being has always said the same thing. And I'm here to tell you the same thing. Everything is inside. It's not on the outside. And we're seeking the answers externally when the answers are internal. We have to go inside. And we have to dig deep. And we have to swim to the depths of the bottom of the murky murk of the ocean, or whatever, the lake, whatever. Be able to get through the algae and the whatever it is, and the stuff that feels gamey, that kind of stuff. When you go into the subconscious mind and take a dive, and you've got to touch it, play with it, see it, get clear. What is it for? Why is it there? Those are the questions, the deeper questions we get to ask ourselves to live into self-awareness, so that we can then start to manifest into the material world. That is us manifesting our God self into the world. Okay, good. So hopefully this was helpful. Good morning. I don't know who's on here. Please say good morning. It's been very hard for me not to be able to see. I see Jennifer in here. I'm not sure if she's still here, but it's hard when I can't see who's on here. I'm like, who's on here? And it's okay.